Section 35 of the Endeavour Journal of Sir Joseph Banks. Journal from 25 August, 1768 to 12 July, 1771, by Joseph Banks. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Gail Timmerman Vaughan. Section 35. April, 1770, Part 1. 1770, April 1. Fresh breeze and fair all day. 1770, April 2. Wind more to the westward, but still fair. Our malt having turned out so indifferent that the surgeon made little use of it, a method was thought of some weeks ago to bring it into use, which was to make as strong a wort with it as possible, and in this boil the wheat which is served to the people for breakfast. It made a mess far from unpleasant, which the people soon grew very fond of. Myself, who have for many months constantly breakfasted upon the same wheat as the people, either did or at least thought that I received great benefit from the use of this mess. It totally banished in me that troublesome costiveness, which I believe most people are subject to when at sea. Whether or no this is a more beneficial method of administering wort as a preventative than the common must be left to the faculty, especially that excellent surgeon Mr. McBride, whose ingenious treatise on the sea scurvy can never be enough commended. For my own part, I should be inclined to believe that the salubrious qualities of the wort, which arise from fermentation, might in some degree at least be communicated to the wheat when thoroughly saturated with its particles, which would consequently acquire a virtue similar to that of fresh vegetables, the most powerful resistors of sea scurvy known. 1770, April 3. Wind as yesterday. We got fast onto the westward, but the compass showed that the hearts of our people hanging that way caused a considerable north variation, which was sensibly felt by our navigators, who called it a current, as they usually do everything which makes their reckonings and observations disagree. 1770, April 4. Wind and weather precisely as yesterday. 1770, April 5. Wind is rather abated and weather considerably milder. The captain told me that he has, in this whole voyage, observed that between the degrees of 40 and 37 south latitude, the weather becomes suddenly milder in a very great degree, not only in the temperature of the air, but in the strength and frequency of the gales of wind, which increase very much in going towards 40, and decrease in the same proportion as you approach 37. 1770, April 6. Almost calm, the air very mild. Some dusky-colored birds were seen by Tupaya and the master, who both said they were a sort which they had not before seen. Tupaya also declared that he saw a flying fish. No one else, however, observed it. 1770, April 7. Almost calm. The air both yesterday and today was damp, so that many things began to mold. The sun today had greater power and heat than we had felt for some months past. 1770, April 8. No swell today, very light breezes. Sun and air much as yesterday. 1770, April 9. Fair breeze, though very little of it. The sea both yesterday and today was as smooth as a mill pool. No kind of swell ranging in any direction. In the morn a red-tailed tropic bird was seen who hovered some time over the ship, but except him few or no birds appeared. 1770, April 10. Another red-tailed tropic bird was seen today, and a flying fish. Weather, as it has now been for several days, rather troublesomely warm, and the sea most uncommonly smooth. 1770, April 11. Calm. Myself went out a-shooting, and killed Diomedea excellens and impavada, saw profuga, Procellaria melanopus, velox, oceanica, vagabundum, and longipies, Nectris fuliginosa, which I find to be the same bird as was seen by the master and Tupaya on the 6th. Took up with dipping net Mimus volutator, Medusa pelagica, Dagusa cornuta, Phyllodosi valella, and Holothuria obtusata, of which last an albatross that I had shot discharged a large quantity. Incredible as it may appear that any animal should feed upon this blubber, whose stings innumerable give a much more acute pain to a hand which touches them than nettles. 1770, April 12. Calm again. I again went out in my small boat and shot much the same birds as yesterday. Took up also chiefly the same animals, to which was added indeed Actinia natans. I again saw undoubted proofs that the albatrosses eat holothurias, or Portuguese men of war, as the seamen call them. I had also an opportunity of observing the manner in which this animal stings. The body of it consists of a bladder, on the upper side of which is fixed a kind of sail, which he erects or depresses at pleasure. The edges of this he also at pleasure gathers in, so as to make it concave on one side and convex on the other, varying the concavity or convexity to which either side he pleases, for the convenience of catching the wind, which moves him slowly upon the surface of the sea in any direction he pleases. Under the bladder hang down 2 kinds of strings, one smooth and transparent, which are harmless, the other full of small round knobs, having much the appearance of small beads strung. These he contracts or extends, sometimes to a length of 4 feet. Both these and the others are in this species of a lovely ultramarine blue, but in the more common one, which is many times larger than this, being near as large as a goose egg, they are of a fine red. With these latter, however, he does his mischief, stinging or burning, as it is called, if touched by any substance. They immediately exert millions of exceedingly fine white threads, about a line in length, which pierce the skin and adhere to it, giving very acute pain. When the animal exerts them out of any kind of the little knobs or beads, which are not in contact with some substance into which they can pierce, they appear very visibly to the naked eye, like small fibres of snow-white cotton. 1770, April 13. Calm and fine as yesterday, with the sun as powerful as ever. Last night a great dew fell, with which in the morn all the rigging, etc. was wet. Myself shooting as usual, but saw no new birds except a gannet, which came not near me. Of those, for these 4 or 5 days past, killed a good many. Indeed, during this whole time, they have been tame and appeared unknowing and unsuspicious of men, the generality of them flying to the boat as soon as ever they saw it, which is generally the case when at large distances from the land. Took up Dagus vitrea and gemma, Medusa radiata and porpita, Helix janthina, very large, Doris complanata, and Beroe bilboa. Saw a large shoal of Esox scombroides leaping out of the water in a very extraordinary manner, pursued by a large fish, which I saw but could not strike, though I did 2 of the former. In the evening saw several fish, much resembling bonitos. The weather we have had for these 9 days past, and the things we have seen upon the sea, are so extraordinary that I cannot help recapitulating a little. The weather, in the first place, which till the 5th was rather cool or rather cold, became at once troublesomely hot, bringing with it a mouldy dampness, such as we have experienced between the tropics. The thermometer at this time, although it showed a considerable difference in the degree of heat, was not near so sensible of it as our bodies, which I believe is generally the case when a damp air accompanies warmth. During the continuance of this weather, the inhabitants of the seas between the tropics appeared. The tropic bird, flying fish, and Medusa porpita are animals very seldom seen out of the influence of trade winds. Several others also are such as I have never before seen in so high a latitude, and never before in such perfection as now, except between the tropics. All these uncommon appearances I myself can find no other method of accounting for than the uncommon length of time that the wind had remained in the eastern quarter before this, which possibly had blown home from the trade wind, and at the same time, as it kept the sea in a quiet and still state, had brought with it the produces of the climates from whence it came. 1770, April 14. A great dew this morn, and weather as calm as ever. In the afternoon, however, a small breeze sprang up, and increased gradually till towards night, when a large quantity of porpoises were seen about the ship. 1770, April 15. Little or no dew this morn. The breeze freshened and came to west-northwest, which soon raised a sea. Several flying fish were seen today, though I was not fortunate enough to see any of them, yet they were seen by people who I am sure would not be mistaken. After dinner, a small bird of the sterna kind came about the ship, much like the sterna of New Zealand, but browner upon the back. It stayed a long time about the ship, and seemed to me as if it had lost its way. At night the wind moderated, but with it came a kind of invisible spray or mist, which thoroughly wetted my hair as I walked the deck. 1770, April 16. No dew this morn. Weather moderate and cloudy. In the morn, Tupaia saw a large float of seaweed, and showed it to one other man. It was, however, so far from the ship that no one else saw it. At noon, our second lieutenant observed a small butterfly, as he thought. At night, some thunder and a fresh gale at southwest, with a heavy swell which seemed to keep rather to the westward of the wind. Many albatrosses and black shearwaters were about the ship. At night a small land bird came on board, about the size of a sparrow. Some of the boys tried to catch it, but it got from them in the rigging, and was never seen after. 1770, April 17. During last night and this morn, the weather was most variable, with continual squalls, and wind shifting all round the compass. Such weather is often met with in the neighbourhood of land, so that with this and the former signs our seamen began to prophesy that we were not now at any great distance from it. Again it was seen, which flew towards the northwest, with a steady, uninterrupted flight, as if he knew the road that he was going led to the shore. In the evening a Port Egmont hen was seen. At night it blew strong at west-southwest. 1770, April 18. Stiff gales and a heavy sea from the westward. In the morn a Port Egmont hen and a pintado bird were seen. At noon 2 more of the former. At night the weather became rather more moderate, and a shoal of porpoises were about the ship, which leaped out of the water like salmons, often throwing their whole bodies several feet high above the surface. End of section 35, part 1 of April 1770.